This evening possible. Thank you to our committee, Sandy Suffian, wherever you are, Carol Katzman, Ellen Portnoy, but really most of all to Jill for making this happen. The introduction of Loren Stein, our artist in residence, who's back here preparing. I don't know what she's preparing, but she's preparing. So I made the introduction of Loren to Jill. Loren was here for the Arts Festival. And thanks to a college roommate of mine who called me up and said, would you house Loren? She wants to come for Shabbat before the Jewish Arts Festival. And I said, of course, you don't say no to my college friend Dina. And we had a blast with Loren and her husband Eric. And so I was delighted to introduce Loren Stein to Jill Madoff and to say, wow, Loren is an incredibly talented artist. And we have a lot of amazingly talented artists in our community. And I'm happy to see that some of them are here this evening. And so it's a very special thing to bring artists together and to bring friends together. And so we began to create this 3-day visit for Loren to come, and where she would do different workshops, paper cut and jewelry making workshops. And it just so happens she's funny. So we got this idea to bring women together for a night of laughs. And we all know we've needed a lot of laughs after having been cooped up for the last 3 weeks due to the snow and ice. And then how wonderful is it that Loren brought this 50-degree weather with her today. She's from Boca. And I'd also like to say a special thank you, and I'm going to invite a dear friend, Randy Berger, up in a second, to say thank you to the special fund that was set up in memory of Sherry Hyatt Kaplan, who was a dear friend. And thanks to the generosity of that fund, we were able to help defray some of the costs of Loren's visit. And Sherry also was a paper cut artist. So now I'm going to turn it over to Randy, who is a dear friend of Sherry's.
Hi. Randy.
In the camera.
Here, okay.
You're going to have to go down.
Well, as you have said, Sherry was a terrific artist. Beautiful, beautiful paper cuttings that she made. And she also made beautiful ketubas. I knew Sherry since I was 2. We grew up together in Philadelphia, suburbs of Philadelphia, and attended the same synagogue together. And our families were very, very dear, close friends. I met my husband on J-Date, and if it wasn't for Sherry, I would not be here in Kansas City today. After speaking to him on the phone for about a month, he decided he was going to come to Philadelphia. And so I told my mother, this guy's coming from Kansas City. Don't you think that's a little weird? And she's like, wait a minute, Sherry lives in Kansas City. And she proceeded to call Sherry's mom, Susan Hyatt, who then called Sherry, and Sherry called me and said, he's okay, you can come and you can go and meet him, you'll be fine. So here I am, thanks to Sherry. I think of her with great joy. She brought a lot of love and a lot of hope to this area, and her infectious smile will always be dearly remembered in my heart, and I'm sure with so many others. So thank you all for being here, and thank you for the invite, and I'm looking forward to Loren.
Thank you, Randy. So really, truly, we wouldn't be here for in many ways, like Randy said, if it weren't for Sherry and the generosity of David Kaplan and the Sherry Kaplan Fund. So thank you very much, David. And now to turn it over to my dear friend, Loren Stein. Loren is one of those house guests that you don't want to leave. So it's really fun to have her back for the second time. She made us laugh a lot before, and it was really fun to see her artwork and to kind of see how it worked at the Jewish Arts Festival. And just a plug for the Jewish Arts Festival, Loren and her husband Eric said the Kansas City Jewish Arts Festival is one of the largest festivals in the country, and that's what motivated them to come. And I think that's really a tribute to the JCC and to the effort of the whole community. So it's really cool. So now Kansas City is definitely on the map for Loren. Now Loren studied architecture and design at the University of Florida, and she graduated from MIT with a master's in architectural design. She began designing pieces of wearable and frameable art for commissions and public sale. Now I think she's one of the best salespeople of her own art, because when she stands up here in a second, you'll see what I mean. She's covered from head to toe and fingers with all of her artwork, and she made it all herself. So without further ado, I turn it over to my friend, and hopefully your friend, Loren Stein.
So I always wanted to be further adu'd. It's like a word I never get to use, further adu'd, and I just got adu'd. So I am not a comedian, although I play one on television. No. So I'm taping because my kids are like, no, seriously, what are you doing? Like, they don't understand this whole thing. So I'm trying to put it all together, how this happened. So when you're talking about me as a Judaic artist and very funny, I don't laugh at my work. And I'm not that good of a salesman, other than maybe just a good model. I now have a rep who thinks she understands my work. She's the salesman, and I just kind of tell stories. The first thing, so I don't want to forget, is Kansas, you're so awesome. How many Jews live in Kansas? No, seriously. How many? 15,000, 18,000. Oh, okay. So there are over 1 million Jews in South Florida. We don't have one Judaica show. Nothing. By the way, if we did, it would be in February, and it wouldn't be in Kansas. So this Thursday I go to Chicago. What's the Jewish place in Chicago called?
Skokie.
It's not Skokie. I don't think I'm going to Skokie.
Deerfield, Northbrook, Highland Park.
Highland Park. That's where I'm going. Big show in Highland Park. So I'm leaving Tuesday. I teach on Wednesdays. I teach all day Wednesday. Thursday, I know, I heard. Thursday morning I head for Chicago. I fly back Monday night. I teach again on Wednesday. Wednesday night I go to Denver. There's another big show. And then I fly back Tuesday night. And then I get to be home with my family. But everyone's like, where are you going in February? And I was like, well, maybe if South Florida could get it together and do a Judaica show, I would stay here. So that's one of the things I'm impressed with. The other is the community center and the community and the art. I can't believe, like, Jill, by the way, who's awesome, spent most of the last 2 days climbing on a ladder. Every time I went out, I was like, where's Jill? She's up on a ladder putting my stuff up.
That's what passes from major risk-taking in Johnson.
Yeah, I was like, she made me sign a waiver before I went on the ladder. No, I didn't go on the ladder, but I was like, she's running all over the place. She's doing this, and there was a play going on yesterday, and I only know that because when I had to really go to the bathroom, apparently it was intermission time, and the lines was out the door, and I'm like, oh my gosh. But the kids that have come for the paper cutting classes and the jewelry classes, I think we've taught 5 so far. They're so great, and we were at the senior facility, which is called the Village Shalom. Wow, so amazing! I can't believe. I mean, we have a lot of senior citizen facilities in South Florida, but we don't have the art classes and the way they're doing it. So really, I have to just give you credit to my Kansas City BFF, who I just met in October. So now we like text each other what we made for Shabbos. I'm like, look what I made. She's like, what did you make? So we're always texting
Hers
food.
is better.
I mean, I can't believe how awesome that she's been. And just everybody here, really, like, to come back as an artist in residence is so incredibly special to me, especially to my husband, that would be that one, who is watching 2 out of 4 kids, 2 are now in college, and the puppy. And like, he's taking care of them, allowing me to do this. I've been doing Judaica for 22 years, but I never did it seriously until about 1.5 years ago when I quit one of my teaching jobs. And he's like, go, just do it. So I'm very grateful and very lucky that I have him to support me so that I can do this. Now, I kind of thought that I would go through my artwork first and tell some stories along how this started, and then we can tell some other funny stories. So, okay, I went to MIT, but they didn't have computers back then, so I am not computer savvy. I do everything by hand. What's the click thing? Just one. Ah. How do you know you're not in Boca anymore? What would your guess be? No. Dogs on leashes. I went to an art show 2 weeks ago in Florida. The kids are on leashes. And the dogs are in strollers. So this, I swear, is real. husband's like, aren't you going to look at the art? I'm like, are you kidding me? So to tell you the truth, I get the invitation. I'm on the way to Miami Heat game. We're Heat ticket holders, and they're playing the Lakers. And Jill sends me this invitation, and it's like, come see this humorist artist, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I don't get it. So I said to my husband, what is this? And he goes, oh, you better work on your shtick, man. I go, I think they're hiring a comedian. He was like, no, I think that'd be you. So I promise that this is South Florida. So you need to get your dogs off those leashes and into some strollers. I told Lisa, I go like, take a picture of you walking Rufus. I need to, she was like, I'm not even going outside. Literally. Okay, this is how it all began. It was 22 years ago. I was pregnant with my oldest son, my first, and I went to Israel with my husband, and he went to buy a Tallis clip. And we went to Mea Shearim, and we went to Ben Yehuda Street, and I thought they were awful. They're awful. Now, I've always had a passion for Hebrew letters. I love letters. I love Hebrew lettering. And it's funny because in retrospect, I look at my sketchbooks from architecture school from MIT, and you're supposed to be drawing buildings, and I'm like drawing Hebrew jewelry. So it started like way back then. So anyway, we look at the Tallis clips. I don't like them, and I say to him, I'm just going to make you a Tallis clip. So I was only married like 2.5 years, and he didn't understand at that point when I said I'm making something that I'm making it. So he's like, you mean you're going to buy it? I'm like, no, I'm going to make it. And he said, well, I want it in metal. I said, so I'll make it in metal. So he's like, well, you don't make metal. I'm like, hello, who cares? So we're living in Manhattan, and I get home, and I didn't Google, we didn't have that, and I'm in the yellow pages, and I'm looking up like metalsmith classes, and the 92nd Street Y has a Judaic metal class. So, by the way, I have stepped in dreck my whole life. Like, I always think that things like this happen, so I was like, oh, cool, there's one 3 blocks away, not knowing it's the only one in the country. So I go to sign up, and I can't get in because it's full. So I was like, okay, so I'll take another class. I sign up for a metal class, and I come in with drawings. These are, by the way, I just found in honor of being here, I found all my original drawings from pieces that I've made. So I have this 3D model made, because in architecture school you have to make models of everything. And I go into this class, and the guy's like, this is a saw, this is metal, and he starts to discuss it, and I just want to dig into the metal. And someone raised their hand and said, well, how do you know you can make something? So he said, well, if you draw it, you can make it. So I'm like, yeah. I go up with my sketch pad, and he's like, I don't think so. And I go, what are you talking about? He goes, you cannot make that. People don't make that to start. And I was like, but you said if you draw it. He's like, well, you can't draw that. He's like, what's your background? I said, well, I'm an architect. And he said, oh, then maybe you can. As if we all have metal training in architecture school. So he left me alone. And I did hinges and pins, and it's very architectural, and I cut it, and the cutting of the metal was so amazing to me. So I made this Tallis clip. I have it. It's in the bottom tray back there. It actually just broke. I have to fix it. But it means so much to me to have that. Meanwhile, I'm 3 weeks into the class. Newbies are coming in, and they're looking at everybody's work, and they're like, wow, how long have you been doing this? I was like, oh, just 3. And the teacher's like, just get away from her. You're not doing that. So I signed up the next time early to the Judaic class. So little did I know. Has anyone heard of Ludwig Wolpert?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So Ludwig Wolpert was my teacher's teacher. My teacher's Bernie Bernstein. He's 80 years old. He's awesome. And I mean, that was the hardest thing about leaving New York. So I walk into this class, and I'm so excited, full of energy. I was young then. Now I'm like old and tired, but I'm in there. And I'm like, this is going to be great. And nobody's talking to me because I was the kid who took someone's spot. I didn't know. These people have been taking, I still have friends there, many have passed, over 80 years old. These people have been taking this class forever, and they're just used to it. It's Monday night, 7 to 9. I popped in like a couple weeks ago to visit everybody, and I was the newbie that took the class, but I was like, they're gonna have to get over it. So I got into it, and that was really where my passion lay. So this is my very first piece. That's how I got into working in metal. So these are more Tallis clips. This is one I just did about a month ago. So I have not improved that much now that I look at it. I'm thinking I need to get a little more work done. But the other idea here is to show you how important my drawings are to me. Like this was made into a Tallis clip, and it was a gift for a bar mitzvah. Back then it was great to know me. You got like handmade silver because I didn't know what anything was worth, and I was making stuff for everybody. This is also from a Tallis clip and a logo. So that's just a little bit of the, whoops. Uh-oh, I touched something. Okay, so this shows my passion for Hebrew. Oh, I was telling somebody this story with the diamonds. Anybody seen my stuff in Hadassah? I'm running ads now in Hadassah. Okay, because you're all way too young. So, and I know that because the average age of who calls me is like 95. So I'm running these ads in Hadassah, and I'm showing mostly my Adam and Eve heart and star and these new, and maybe the endless blessings. And for some reason, I assume most people can work the computer. So a woman calls me and she says, "Hello, is Loren there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, this is Loren Stein Designs." "Oh my gosh, you answer your own phone?" So I was like, "Well, all the employees are out. You just caught me, it was a fluke." So she says, "I need to know, how much is that piece?" So I said, "Well, what piece?" She says, "The one I'm looking at." Okay, I swear. There are 3 pieces in the ad. So I start to describe, no. And I said, "I'm really sorry. I really don't know what you're looking at." She says, "I think it's a star." I said, "A star? It's got to be the Adam and Eve." So I said, "Do you see bodies?" "No. I see rubies, but I'm sure they're not real." And I'm like, okay. "And diamonds, those aren't real either." I don't know how she knows they're not real, although they are real. There's a great story behind that piece too. So I'm talking to her and I'm like, she's describing this piece, but I did not run it in my ad. So I said to her, "Did you see me in Hadassah magazine?" And she said, "Yes." So I said, "Ma'am, I think you're calling the wrong artist." She's like, "Are you Loren Stein Designs?" I said, "Yeah." She says, "Oh, I'm on the computer. I'm looking. I have 100 pieces on the computer." I didn't know what she was looking at. So she says to me, "I need to find, but I'm on an iPad my family just bought me. So now I am Tony from Pakistan, and I am teaching her how to use her iPad." And I'm like, listen. So she goes, "I don't know how to work this." So I'm like, "Okay, can you scroll down? Do you know how to scroll down?" So she goes, "I'm scrolling down. Uh-oh, I'm on Facebook." I swear. So I'm trying to help her, and she says, "I'm going to call you back when I learn to work this." I haven't heard back from her, but I'm thinking, write this stuff down. Oh, so why am I here doing this? Because Lisa and I were talking, and I'm telling funny stories, and she's like, "You got to write this down." So I said, about 4 years ago, I started to write the funny things that Jews say and do. I'm on page 240. I'm not doing anything with it, but if you ever have a bad day, I go home and I read chapters, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that was funny." So I think that's how I got billed as this humorous artist. I was raised, and am being raised, by 2 awesome parents. My parents taught my siblings and I, 4 of us, that we can be and do anything that we want. And we really have grown up knowing, I didn't know until I was in college, that not everybody's parents are like this. So the story behind this piece, I have a great older sister. She looks like Cher. She dresses like Madonna. Honestly. I am Shomer Shabbos. I do wear pants. I am the whacked out one in the family. My brother was a Chippendale dancer, but apparently I'm whacked out. So she calls me and she says, "I have the best idea for a design, the best idea." I said, "Sure." She goes, "I want a star, maybe, but with a K on it." So I came up with this design of the K and the star. It was really big, filled with diamonds. I mean, gold, I think, was 200 an ounce back then. And then I came up with this whole line of the Aleph Bet. And all of this are Hebrew letters superimposed over the alphabet. I spent weeks on it, weeks. I was so proud of it. I go down to Clearwater, Florida, which is where I grew up, believe it or not. There are some Jews there. And I'm at a bar with her, and she's wearing it, and everyone's like, "I love your necklace." And I hear her say, "Oh, thanks, I designed it." Oh, thanks, I designed it. And I'm like this, "What?" And she goes, "Well, I told you to design a K with a star." And I was like, "Well, I'm an architect, house with windows. Are they all mine?" Like, what's that? So my sister takes full credit for that piece that created that entire line of called Floating Stars. I moved into, so I'm inspired by many artists. I try very hard not to copy artists. So a lot of times people say, "I saw this piece, can you do it cheaper?" I go right to the artist, but Hebrew names have been in for a very long time. But I think I took my architectural background. This is Leah, and this is Tova. And I bend the metal, and I worked it around. And this was like my first pieces maybe 18 years ago. I did a lot of Hebrew letters. This was my passion. So I was pregnant with Alex. He was born. And I know I'm supposed to be in shul listening to Devar Torahs. Oh, you remember that? But I have ADHD. Surprise. And I'm listening to Bereshit, and I'm hearing the story of creation, and I'm thinking, I've got this kid, and I designed this necklace. This necklace is about 20 years old. And these are from just the sketches that I did, the bracelet I wear all the time. So I did that when I had my oldest. I did the bracelet when I had my son Jonah, who's now 18. And I'm also very inspired by Torah and Torah stories, which is why I was sitting in shul with Lisa in October, and they were talking about that survey, the Pew Study, which is very interesting, unless you have ADHD, and after about 30 minutes, your mind is off somewhere else. And I'm looking at the Ner Tamid in shul, and I'm thinking, if I could get wood, laser cut, the shape of a star. So she's sitting next to me, and I'm doing this, and I'm thinking, too bad Shabbos isn't over, because I gotta wait and run home and sketch this out. So Lisa said to me, when do you do most of your designing? And I'm like, oh, I'm embarrassed to tell you, usually in shul. She goes, I knew it, I saw you, right? And that's what I was doing, busy making that Ner Tamid. So this also, with my background in architecture, it's probably a bad side, but I like things to do more than what they look like they do. So this is a ring and a necklace. It flips, it has hinges, it's worn as both. It's a very old piece, but it's just interesting. For me, it's actually, sometimes I love my drawings more than my pieces. It's just the idea of the mechanical part of it that I really liked in that. So these are more pieces with drawings. This was a mezuzah with doors that open. It's very old. It's a one of a kind. Just, I got inspired and I decided to create that. These are logos. This is for a synagogue for the $100,000 and over givers. Not bad, right? South Florida. So it was a pin for a woman and a pin for a man, and it was a dedication piece. It was my very first one. So here's where my drawings, I think, are better than my pieces, but I get into the shading and the shadowing. This is a Havdalah set with a Kiddush cup and candlestick. These are the drawings for it. And then these are the pieces. One of the reasons I put the drawings in is that I know a lot of people, and I can't go to the artists here. The artists here really make their jewelry. But how many times you meet somebody and they're like, oh, I have a line of jewelry. But they're not actually making it. They're sending it to China, which is great. I mean, Halavai, they're making a ton of money. Good for them. I physically made every piece at least once. I often have pieces cast now, but pieces like this are handmade every time. So this is a Kiddush cup I did for Jonah. Jonah's my second son. See the shin? And then the Yud's Yud, Yaakov Yosef, and his name Yaakov Yosef, and it's Jacob's ladder because of Jacob. And that was from that drawing. And then I started into designs for bar mitzvah invitations. So this was Jonah's invitation, which matched the logo for the Kiddush cup that I gave him. So this is part of the evolution of the creation line. And this is the Adam and Eve. This is the piece I put in Hadassah. And when someone is clearly over 90, I have to say to them, you do know they're naked, right? Because I don't want them to get the piece and be like, I didn't know they were naked. So it's very clear that they're naked. This was my very first 3D Adam and Eve. It's really one of my favorites. I wear it all the time. Then I had a lot of non-Jews interested in the creation line. So I created the Adam and Eve heart. And I just finished this last week. It's the heart and the star with Adam and Eve. And then I did the 2D designs of those pieces. So it's funny because I'm not really a heart lover, but I seem to make a lot of hearts. I don't know why. But I love bodies and forms. Did somebody ask me something? No? Love hearts. Really, it's funny. And I don't think I am, but I apparently am. So these are invitations, covers, shul dinners, things. This is how it all started. Oh, can we pay you $50 for the cover of a journal? Oh, sure, I'll do it. And I did it like that a lot. And it takes time. And eventually, I still do a lot of tzedakah. Every time I do an event, I donate at least 10, usually 20% to something. And that's really important to me. And hopefully I'm translating that to my kids. These are my paper cuts, or some of them. So the ones, this is brand new, is the Berkat Habayit, the blessing for the home. It's the same as the one up there. And here, I customize with the hand cut the name of the family, like Mishpacha Stein or whatever it is, and that's all part of my new paper cutting. This is one of my favorites. These are family trees. So this I did for a client up there. This one is really special. This was for my mother-in-law and my father-in-law. Both of them lost their first spouses. So it was actually it's very hard to do a family tree when it's divorce and everybody's fighting. When somebody passes, it makes it, easier. There was no politics involved. So those are my in-laws in the middle. And this is my mother-in-law's family with her first husband, my husband's father, and the ancestry down the line, and I put the names in, and the children and their grandchildren through the top, and there's more room in the leaves to add more names. This is my father-in-law, stepfather-in-law's family, and the same thing. So it was the conjoining of two families, and I gave that to them for, I think, their 20th anniversary. This is what I just did, a ketubah. This is my first ketubah that I did the text. I've done ketubahs before. I will never do the text ever again. I don't have the attention span for it. You have to sit the entire time. You can't get up because then your handwriting might change. 4.5 hours. I thought I was going to die. I will now hire someone else to do that. But the theme was lovebirds. This was their invitation. The Kiddush cup was the lovebirds. And that's just the progress of how the ketubah went. This was the first ketubah I did. This was a good friend of mine's son. They met at camp, the bride and groom, so it's little kids on a park bench. Both their names started with Shin, and they wanted the skyline of Jerusalem with fireworks. But I did not do that text, because I was smarter back then. These are other invitations. That's my daughter's bat mitzvah. The African one is a friend whose son, they're from South Africa, and when you pulled the invitation out, and it's back there on display, the sunset of Africa came through. So that's more of how I like, things to do stuff. So this is special. This I have a hard time getting through without choking up. So 2 summers ago, I work at Camp Ramat Darom. I don't know if anyone knows Ramat Darom, Spa Ramat, the really nice camp. It's called Spa Ramat. So 2 summers ago, there was an unfortunate drowning. I don't know if anybody had heard. So my son was on that trip with Andrew. And sorry, it was very sad. So it was the 7th day of camp. And all those kids, they had this summer ahead of them, and it changed. And they would come into the art rooms. The art room is filled with what we thought were really cool ladies, but apparently we found out we were known as the old ladies in the art department. So they would come in and they didn't know what to do. So I just started taking them in, and we started talking about prayers and blessings. And each child happened to, that year, I had these dog tags, and I've never used them. I brought them up. There were 100 dog tags. There were 72 kids. There were now 71. And they would stamp a blessing for Andrew. And it was really amazing. The entire summer, some kids took 6 weeks literally to come up with something that they thought was so special. So I did a fundraiser in South Florida for the Silvershine Foundation. So this is Malachi, I don't remember the blessing, but it had to do with Andrew. And for the life of that blessing, any piece that somebody orders, a percentage goes to the Silvershine Foundation for Camp Ramat. But the nice thing it did was it created this whole line for me called Endless Blessings. So this one is Berkat Habanim, Blessing for the Children. I have all 4 of my kids' names on there, and it's very special to me. I have, this one is Guard Your Tongue. It's supposed to keep me from speaking Lashon Hara. It protects me now when I do. So anybody who has a Lashon Hara problem, just get one of these. You'll be good. So I've done a lot of pieces with this. This actually, so again, the architect comes in, the piece comes off. It can be a necklace, it can be a bracelet. But people were asking about a website. It's very hard to have an orderable website for Jews. Jews don't want to order online. They want to talk to you. And they want to talk to you for a really long time. And they want to tell you their life story for a really long time. And you know what? My rep says to me, you got to get off the phone. And it's so part of what I'm passionate about. When somebody calls me and her daughter has cancer and she wants to buy her a blessing that's for healing, or one of the girls has Crohn's disease and this one had, and they talk to me and we look through blessings. It's not my specialty. My husband's very good at that. And I'll say, this is what this person said. And we come up with these lists, and it's so amazing how personal. I was at a hotel in Miami this week, and a woman fell in love with my Adam and Eve star. But when I explained this, she's like, I really love that, but I need to have that. So we're doing 8 grandchildren and a blessing for the children. So for Andrew, this really created a really special line for me. So this is, I had in Kansas in October. Since then, these are for the men, the dog tags, the hamsas, the cufflinks. Mostly for men, I do tallis clips. Most of my pieces come from a commission. So if somebody says, have you ever, whatever, I probably haven't, but will do it. These are brand new from 2 months ago. So everyone's seen the English monograms, right? Everybody's wearing monogram necklaces. So it never occurred to me. And then I Googled it. I didn't see any. I Googled everywhere. I can't find Hebrew monograms anywhere. I've seen Hebrew names, and Kabbalah has a Hebrew something. And the Shema going all around, a dime a dozen. So I was okay with it. So I created the Hebrew monograms in 3 different styles, and these are brand new. This is my only push a button, click and order website because it's very simple. I promise you that people are going to call me all the time and ask questions. So this was cool. This was the ADL event I was in. I applied to be in an art fair. You had to get in. It was for the ADL. They gave you like 5 topics. And I got accepted based on a thought. I'm like, I'm going to do a 3-foot paper cut. I'm going to do a bracelet. So I'm a little bit last minute because I'm a little busy. So 3 weeks before, they're like, please send us pictures of your artwork. And I was like, oh, I don't even have it. So my husband's like, you're really going out on a limb here. What if they don't like the paper cut? What if they don't understand the paper cut? It was a good move. There were 40 artists or so. There was 60 paintings, and the paintings were beautiful. A lot of them were Holocaust, so as beautiful as they were, not everybody wanted to hang that in their house. And people really loved my piece, and I was so excited. My mother and father-in-law were there. I paid friends to go to bid on my work. I'm like, you have to bid on my work, because if it doesn't sell, I'm going to be mortified. So they didn't have to bid on my work. Mine were the first ones sold, I think because you could wear it and you could see it, but it was like one of my most exciting moments, and that was just a couple months ago. So this I did for Kansas City when Jill and I spoke, and I said, what's the blessing or the words that we want to use? It was, it's this one, not this one. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdov, justice, justice, and you shall pursue, with the mockingbirds. They all know about the play for the mockingbirds, yeah. Jill, To Kill a Mockingbird, and that's what we've been doing. So I created that for the 100th year JCC anniversary for Kansas City. Oh my gosh, you don't want to see that yet. Wait, how do we go back?
Previous.
Oh, don't want to do that. Previous. And previous. And still doing it. Previous. Up. Previous. Okay. So some of the things to talk about. First of all, is my friend here? She's not here? Okay, so I got permission to tell this story. So one of the funniest things I think about being Jewish is that Jews give other Jews jobs all the time. And I have decided, right, in order to do what? Play Jewish geography, or just to say you don't say you gave somebody a job. And I don't think it's to save money. But no matter where I go, people are always asking me, oh, you're from Boca, do you mind bringing this to wherever? So I'm here in Kansas City. I was in shul with you on Shabbat. She's already laughing. We were discussing this story this morning. And I'm at my booth, and I'm a little bit busy, and someone comes over. I'm not going to tell you who, but I got her permission. You're going to guess it, with a bag. And she's like, psst, I got the package. So I'm like, I'm sorry, what? I got people at my booth, and she's got a pack. I got the package. I go, what package? You know, the shoes. So I'm like, the shoes? What shoes? She goes, you can bring them to Boca, right? And I'm like, aren't I in Kansas? Like, what does that mean? So I was like, yeah, $30,000 worth of jewelry, 50 pounds of this, sure, I'll take the shoes. I don't think twice. I figured actually the way she said it was like she had had a conversation already. I thought maybe my husband said he'd take the shoes. She said, my son and daughter-in-law live in Boca. You know who that is? And I got her permission. So she goes, I need you to bring her the shoes. Fine. I don't even open it up. I take the shoes, I bring it back to Boca. So now I'm laughing at my husband, and I'm like, do you understand? This is what gets Jews into trouble. What if it's a gun? What if I'm smuggling drugs? I said, because you know, a Jew can't go to Israel, right, without 500 people telling you what they need you to bring. So here's the problem. We believe in God, but we don't believe in the Postal Service. It's the Jews' fault that the mail service is going kaput. Because we're not using it. I have a lot of non-Jewish friends. They have never asked me to take a small wardrobe to Jerusalem. So then you go through security and they're like, you got the baggage? No. And anybody give you something? No. And then we lie. We flat out lie. Tachlis, we're going to Israel and we're already lying. We haven't gotten on the plane. And then you're like, you spend your whole time delivering packages because everybody's kid is learning at some yeshiva and they're what, bar hopping, but they don't have time to pick up the package and you're schwitzing wondering you're going to give them the package. And then what do we smuggle back from Israel? Gummies. Right? So you're in line. For those of you who keep kosher, the gummies in Israel that have hashkafa are much better than the kosher gummies in this country. I'm about to tell you why. So now you're in security, and they go, everyone is in line. They're like 80, 90 years old. Did you hide the gummies? I hid the gummies. Who cares? They don't care about your gummies. Do you have weapons? Do you have drugs? Are you hiding secret material? Nobody cares. So you're in line, and everyone's like, I hid the gummies. I have a philosophy. First of all, I have a fact. Apparently, the gummies in Israel that got the okay, the hashkafa, is from the head rabbi of Israel, who decided that the gelatin in them is not edible, so it's okay. Except in this country, we're not allowed to have them. I think they're made in this country. I think they're shipped to Israel. I think you're bringing them back. And you know how I know this? You know when you go to Florence and they have this beautiful market filled with fruit, everything looks so fresh. Do you notice how the gummies look so fresh? There's no plastic bag. It's like we just picked them fresh today for you. So you're on Ben Yehuda Street, right? You can't buy cereal in a box. They're scooping it like it just came off the farm. And they're scooping these candies. And I said to my husband, oh my God, get the bag. I want to see the package. You ask them for the package, they won't give it to you. I'm telling you, they are made in America. And we are re-smuggling Treif gummies so that our kids can have them at a simcha. So I have the shoes, and I bring them back. And it takes a couple of days, and I deliver the shoes. I don't think anything of it. First of all, I don't know. They could be Prada. I didn't look. I honestly am a little busy. I didn't look. So a couple weeks ago, there was a Shalom Zachor for that family. And I go, because that's my community. And I say, I'm going to do this little routine in Kansas. Can I tell about the shoes? No, you can't. My mother-in-law will kill you. But we got permission. We got permission. So the story gets, first of all, this is what I want to know. What if I hadn't come to Kansas? Who would the shoes be? You know? I would. You would have taken. So this is what I want to know. Are the do they go to the airport with the shoes looking for a flight to go to South Florida? Are the shoes sitting outside hitchhiking looking for a ride to Florida? I'm like, what if I was going to Timbuktu? Would she have needed a brisket? Maybe she just wanted to give me a job, because Jews give each other jobs. And then I could play Jewish geography with the children, and we could say, oh, big world, small world. So I bring the shoes. She said, let me tell you about the shoes. They didn't start in Kansas. Now these shoes have been well traveled. Apparently, the shoes started in Baltimore. She left her shoes in Baltimore, and for some reason, they think there's a more direct route to South Florida through Kansas. Right? So I'm like, the story gets better. Somebody from Baltimore, right, brought the shoes to Kansas so that I could show up at an art fair, feel like I'm smuggling undercover shoes, bring them back to Boca. Okay, so now I have proof of this issue. I have proof. We have a BRS website. That's my synagogue. What do you call it here? The what?
Well, we have a listserv.
A listserv. Okay. Would anyone going to Israel soon be able to take a letter there? My son will pick it up from you. It would be a mitzvah. Okay. A, who said? It'll be a mitzvah. B, you've got it in an envelope. Put a damn stamp on it. Put it in the mail. Wait. I left a package in Boca I need brought to Hollywood today. My wife will drop it off to you. I will pick it up if you can bring it. Please let me know. Nope, no mail service, no nothing. Wait, if we don't believe in it, we don't think anything will get where it needs to be. If anyone is going to Jerusalem could take a small packet of baby wardrobe, small packet, I'd appreciate it. My daughter will pick it up. Wait, there was a great one. baby clothes. Wait, there's one that's one of my favorites. Everything is traveling to Jerusalem. Oh, someone delivered a maroon duffel suitcase to our house on Andorra Place, and it must be for someone else, because it's not ours. Please come and collect it, whoever the tall man is who delivered it. If not, it will be removed curbside. Now, if this was an airport, they'd blow that sucker right up. Then the next one comes in. I can't remember who took the suitcase, who I took it from. If it's you, please let me know. Oh, does anyone have a spare chuppah? Because I am looking to borrow a chuppah for someone getting married in Deerfield. Yeah, I have one. I'll send it right over. Yeah, one of my favorites. I'm trying to find it. I don't know. It said, anyone going to Brooklyn in the next 4 or 5 days, my mother left her phone charger. So I have an image of her mother sitting, staring at her phone, waiting for the person to call who brought the charger, except that the phone's dead, and she doesn't know how to work a landline anymore because nobody uses that. And I'm thinking, Brooklyn, I think they sell chargers there. Get one. There was another one, anyone going to Israel, I need you to mail a letter within the state of Israel. P.S. You need to buy the stamp. Okay, but you have to understand, they're not anonymous. People sign their names to it. This was 2 weeks ago. My wife is in Israel. The children are hungry. If anyone's going to John's Pizza, can you pick me up 2 pies? I have it, I swear. So this is also in the last 2 weeks. We have just moved to Boca. My wife and I are very busy traveling. We would like some Shabbat plans for the next 3 Shabbats, Friday night and Saturday. We welcome the hospitality. We will eventually reciprocate. I was like, wow, that's impressive. I'm traveling. I'd like a Shabbat meal for my family. So I was like, can you call the shul? They do that. A week later, thank you for all the hospitality. These dates are still open. I was like, wow. Okay, so this, I don't want to offend anybody. This next picture is a total joke. This is me and my Jewish journey. I tried everything. So I grew up Reform in Clearwater, Florida. I did live in I was born in Portsmouth, Virginia. My father was in the Navy. And I lived there till I was 3, and then we moved to Queens. So of course, now that I'm doing this, I call my mom, and I'm like, Mom, when did you see that I had signs of artistic ability? Like, at what point? And she's like, you were 2.5, I remember. I said, oh God, what do you remember? She said, you took crayons and you covered the walls of the rental apartment. And I really was a good guy. I never got grounded. I left that to my older siblings. And I said, was I good? She goes, you were very good. She said, I was so mad. She goes, it was a rental. I was so mad. And I said, oh my gosh, what would you have done if we owned it? She goes, oh, I would have killed you. I said, okay, so here I go, and now I'm working my way in, because she already says to me, all right, you're looking to get me in trouble now. I said, what was the next? I remember the next. It was Halloween, and my older sister used to always tell me to do stuff to get me into trouble. So she said, let's surprise Mommy and decorate the windows with Halloween decorations. Here's the markers, you do it, you're much better. So I painted Halloween decorations all over the windows. I got in trouble. So I said, all right, what about jewelry making? I was 5.5. Who here's mother had beaded roses? You know those beaded flowers, right? So my great aunt's friend made beaded roses and gave them to my mom. So my sister gave me scissors, and she said, let's make Mommy pretty necklaces. So I cut up the beads. I didn't understand they weren't connected. So beads are everywhere. And I never forgot it because she threw away my favorite stuffed animal, and she made me watch The Garbage Man. I remember his name was Gluey, right? Right? Seriously. So she made me, so I'm telling this story recently, and my 10-year-old, who's very sweet, very attached to his stuffed animal, and the tears are, I didn't see. And my parents happened to have been visiting. And I'm sitting Shabbat table with 12 people. My parents are in the guest room, and I'm like, I can't believe, my friends, I can't believe she did that. I said, I remember watching them pick up. So Levi looks at me and he goes, that's the worst story ever. Why did she do that? And I was like, yeah, go ask her. He goes down the hall, and I hear my mom yell, oh, for God's sakes, get over it. Apparently, I said, I'll be in therapy. I'll definitely me be in therapy. So I'll tell you, this is my favorite. Do we have time? This is my favorite story. I remember. So I was always making things and building stuff, and it never occurred to me, can I do? And my mom is very creative in the mind, but not in the hands. So she would come up with an idea, and I would make it. She's a Jewish educator for 40 years. So my dad is a radiologist. We all know what that means. It means that when you go to a restaurant and you recognize a woman, we have to say, don't say anything. You probably saw her breasts. Because he'll be like, oh, she looks so familiar. We're like, and he'll be like, yeah, you're right, I'm not saying anything. So my mom said, I want to make centerpieces for the table. You know where I'm going with this? I want 20 ceramic breasts with the nipple. I'm going to put a flower out of it. I'm 12 years old. I go, okay. So she says, you got to do it when Daddy's on call. I'm like, great. So we had a sauna in our house, and we never used it. It held valises. Anybody over 50 have a valise? Do you put your maroon slacks in it? So the valises are in the sauna. So I've made 20 breasts. I've painted 15. They're all in the sauna drying. My dad comes home from work early. Oh, she's dying. And I'm sort of painting. No, I wasn't painting one. He said to Elaine, I need a valise. And we look at each other like. So he goes into the sauna, and she's like, I'm like, I got it. So he comes out, and he's white. My dad, oh my God, he's the nicest guy in the whole world. He makes Abraham Lincoln look like a criminal, and he's white. And he goes like this. Are you working on a project? And I'm like, why? And he goes, because I was just in the sauna. And I go, oh yeah, it's for science. They're volcanoes. So he goes, they're volcanoes. I go, yeah, they're not done yet. And I've been working. And he's like, okay. And he looks at my mom, and he leaves the room. And he waits about 30 seconds, and he goes, Elaine, can you come in here for a minute? And I'm like, I swear, I'm 12 years old, because he was just turning 40. She goes into the room, and here's the conversation. What is she doing? She's making volcanoes. They look like breasts. She goes, I know. Don't say anything. She's been working very hard. They have nipples. So she's like, she's not done. That's where they're going to erupt from. Now the party is in 4 days, and now I can paint them in public because now he knows about it. So now I'm eating it up because he's walking by and he's schwitzing. He schwitz no matter what, but he's not. And he says to her, "Wait, she's usually very good at this." So he comes into his surprise party. There's 20 breasts with flowers coming out of it in the middle of the table. But the week of torture, watch. Oh, he said she can't bring them to school. She's like, just give it time. So I said, I don't know when I got into everything, but I think it was like all along the path. So I grew up in a Reform community, even though my mother went to Beis Yaakov in Brooklyn. So I lived in Queens, and I have a sister 12 months older and a brother 12 months older, and then a sister 5 years younger. By the way, we were all mistakes, and my dad's a physician. And it didn't occur to me until I was MIT, and my roommate was at Harvard, and she said, you're 12 months apart. Didn't they know anything about birth control? And I was like, and I picked up the phone, and they were like, I don't want to hear it. So I don't want to hear it. So the thing with my mom with this is that no matter what she asks me, I would pause. Like, nothing's too much for your mother unless you're spending 40 hours making breasts and whatever. But if I say to her, Mom, can you do something for me? She always does it. But it's usually like a 30-second thing. So I've had my 4th child. Lady's 2 months old. My sister's getting married. She met her husband in Siena. They both worked at the bank in Siena. And my mother calls me. The wedding is in 2 months. She says, I have the best idea. You're going to paint an 8-foot backdrop of Piazza de Campo, where they met in Siena, for the chuppah. And I'm like this, rocking a baby. I'm like, and I'm so sorry I don't have a picture of it. I'm like this, what? And she goes, yeah, you have 3 weeks to do it. And I'm like, Mom, I have a 2-month-old. Long pause, so I'm screwed. Really? I ask so much? Do I say no to you? And I'm like, I don't know, I didn't ask you to do a 10-foot mural. So I'm painting a mural, and it really came out beautiful, but it was just this thing that always, whatever mom said, I did. So anyway, so apparently I cried when my siblings went to school because I wanted to go to school. The only school that would take me was a yeshiva in Queens. So in kindergarten and first grade, I went to yeshiva. And my whole life after that, I said, I'm going to marry somebody religious, I'm going to raise my kids religious, I'm going to be Shomer Shabbat, this is what I want. So I'm from the Tampa area. You've all heard of Tampa, right? Have you heard of Clearwater?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Dunedin?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Palm Harbor?
Yeah.
That's where I'm from, right? That's where I'm from. So you can't play Jewish geography with people, with me. I'm like, oh, are you from? They're like, it's either Miami or Orlando, but nothing else. So anyway, so it was always a passion for me. But I grew up Reform. I went to Israel when I was 16. I came home and I said, that's it, no more treif in the house. Now, we never had milk and meat together, but we did have treif. My mother used to say, it's not fair. I'm always on a diet. I need shellfish. So I came home and the treif was gone. My siblings were ready to kill me. So as an architect, I design homes for people. And they always put like this little Passover kitchen. So I laugh because we had a non-kosher kitchen, but wasn't treif. But we had a treif garage. My siblings used to eat ham and bacon in the garage. Their friends would bring it. So at 16, it really changed for me. And then I went to University of Florida. By the way, University of Florida has more Jews than any other college in the country. More than YU, more than Stern. There's 8,000. And I would meet Jews and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm Jewish. And they were like, so what? Like everybody's Jewish. You have to get over it. I moved to Manhattan. I'm like, oh my God, I'm Jewish too. They're like, yeah, so what? So nobody cared. So I started to become conservative. This is me as conservative. Not really, I superimposed my face over conservative. That's funny. This is Reform. Then I was conservative. That's really not me again, it's my face. This is me being Orthodox. And then this is me being, now I'm Chabad. The problem is they still won't count me in a minyan. It wasn't a look my husband was going for. So this is me actually last Purim, and nobody knew it was me, and it was very funny, because it was an Orthodox thing, and my kids are like, you can't wear pants. I'm like, I'm Hasidish. I can wear whatever I want. So I teach at this all-girl Chabad school. 60 girls, 40 of them live in dorms. They're bat shlichim. So for those of you who don't know, the shliach, the Chabad that gets placed all around the world, like you get to Boca, you're in Timbuktu, and you want to know who's the winner, who's the loser. All their kids get put into dorm schools. So I have these amazing, amazing girls. So 9 out of 10 of them are Chaya Mushka. You know who Chaya Mushka is? Okay, so I didn't know who Chaya Mushka was. So my first day of class, I'm like totally gonna rock these girls' worlds. I'm so smart. I'm gonna teach them stuff they never heard. They have total teenage attitude, just like everybody else. Sometimes when they're really crazy, they wear wild socks. They're like, look, Mrs. Stein, wild socks, don't tell. So I'm like, fine. So I'm teaching in this school, I'm reading the roll, and I'm like, Chaya Mushka, Sashka, Sasha Mushka, Dvorah Leah, Chaya Mushka, Chaya Mushka. And I'm like, I never met a Chaya Mushka in my life. Why are there 10 of them? They rolled their eyes at me and they're like, the Rebbe's wife. So I call them by their city. I have one from Zurich, Paris, Nice, Montreal, not Kansas, Oklahoma, the Chabad rabbi in Oklahoma's daughter. So I teach at this great school, so they were really very excited when I dressed as Chabad. They think I'm Chabad. So about 4 years ago, when I converted to Sephardic, you know you can do that? So I said to the rabbi, you know, there's a lot of politics in Judaism. Where I live, there's 800 Jewish families in my shul. There's 7 minyanim every Shabbat. So I just decided I didn't like the way my people were behaving. So a friend of mine who's Sephardic's like, you should be Sephardic. You can do whatever you want. So I've been Sephardic for like 3 years. My husband's not Sephardic. I would never marry a Sephardic man. So people think I'm Sephardic because I want the rice on Passover. I don't really care about the rice. But what's funny is my Sephardic friends are all like, oh, my sister, you're Sephardic, I bring you rice. My Ashkenaz friends are acting like I became Christian. You don't get to do that. Who says you get to do that? I'm like, I'm still Jewish. So the rabbi's in on it. Anyone ask my rabbi in Boca Raton, Florida, Loren Stein is Sephardic. Any questions about my artwork, my craziness, my mishigas, the mail? It does work, by the way. You can put a stamp on a letter. It will actually get there. Let me see. I think I covered so much.
Is this your first comedy gig?
This is, well, actually, besides
Lisa's house.
well, I'll tell you the truth. No, to tell you the truth, I was the chair of a mikveh brunch. Okay, that when you honor somebody at the mikveh. My best friend was being honored, and the projector wouldn't work. And they're fixing it, and they're like this, just tell a story. So I get up and I go, who wants to hear a mikveh story? The Rebbitzin looks at me and she's like this, oh no. And I started to tell stories, which I can't repeat. We already went over it. Probably not. I have a good one. I can tell one funny one if you want to hear it. If you don't want to hear it, it's fine. So I had to get up and do this stand-up thing. And it was funny. It was like 7 years ago. We were discussing it this weekend with all my friends. People were like, I didn't know you then, but I was on the floor. So the first weekend we moved to Boca, I have to go to the mikveh. And it's Friday night. I don't think I'd ever been on a Friday night. And there are different rules to Friday night. So I forgot. So I took a shower there, which I wasn't supposed to, and I hit the buzzer, which I wasn't supposed to because I forgot. So they're like, we try not to hit the buzzer we try not to use the telephone on Shabbos. Now I have to explain myself why I use the buzzer, and I didn't know, whatever. So when we're going, on Friday night, my husband says, be nonchalant when you walk home. Blend in with the crowd. I don't want people to. So the funny thing about the mikveh is we're all supposed to go, but nobody's supposed to know you go. So it's like the secret undercover thing everyone's supposed to do. So meanwhile, I'm the only one in Boca Raton who wears a cowboy hat. So the silhouette of the cowboy hat is coming out of shul, out of the mikveh, with all the men. I thought it looked like a black hat. I don't know. My husband wasn't going for it. We sit down. It's our first Shabbat, and my mom looks at me, and she goes like this. I don't know where you went, but when you left, your dress was not inside out. That's not the bad one. I can't tell the bad one. So I did want to say one thing, which I think is really funny. So the whole story is that I've always been very artistic. I won contests. I won all these things. But with my mouth, everyone thought I was going to be a lawyer. My grandmother, God love her, 103. I want my dad to say, lie, tell her I'm a lawyer. Because apparently going to MIT and being an architect is just not good enough. So every time she used to introduce her father, Zaidi, you remember Zaidi? So I thought his name was Zaidi, you remember Zaidi? I have become, she's my religious granddaughter, which I hate because I don't dress the part. You don't say that to chassids. It's my religious granddaughter. She was supposed to be a lawyer. This is my name. My granddaughter, she was supposed to be a lawyer. So I have ADHD, dyslexia, and a reading disorder. So like all good Jewish parents, my parents tried to push me to law school. Because you don't read for law school. In my house, nobody ever had to say, Loren, put the book down. Never happens. There's never a book unless it's got pictures in it. So I keep saying, so I called my mom again the other night and I said, can I ask you something? How come you never said you should go into an art field? You're so artistic. She said, that's not a profession. Nobody tells their kids to do that. She goes, I said, what about architects? She goes, that was okay, but not that. So we were also discussing it with the artists. The one thing I wanted to say to the rest of the artists is it's so funny because you can go anywhere else in the world. You go to Italy. I studied in Italy. And you say, I'm an architect. They're like, architettura, va bene, tutto bene. And they're so excited. You're an artist, you make this, cose fatte, va bene. They're crazy. Israel, architect, artist, great. In this country, they're like, really? So I have tons of men. You're an architect? I always wanted to be one. I'm like, I know, your mother wouldn't let you. No, she wouldn't let me. There's no money in it. There's like no money in it. But it's so funny because, I won contests, but nobody ever said be an artist. It never even occurred to me to be an artist. So it's one thing I really push with my kids, who I have also handed over some dyslexia and definitely a reading disorder. My son just got into, this is first year at Columbia, 5 tries to get in. 5 tries, persistence, and he's all math. And he used to say, well, I need this core curriculum because even though I'm not good at English, like you really should be doing it. And I know parents believe that. I don't believe in it. I think that God gives everybody a gift, everyone. I tell my students all the time, we're going to find that gift. We're going to find whatever that special thing is, and we're going to bring that out in you. And some of you can draw, and some of you can write, and some of you can. I have a girl she's amazing. She's brilliant. You ever watch Big Bang Theory? Yeah. So she's like Sheldon, but like for real. And the girls always roll their eyes at her every time she says something. So we started this new trivia game in art. She asks me a question, I ask her a question, and all of a sudden the girls understand she's so smart, she knows so much. But she'll be like, which rabbi in the 32nd century of the blah, 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 did blah, 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 halacha, halacha. And I'm like, and I'm texting my husband, phone a friend. And he's good, he knows it, he knows his stuff. And I'm like, yeah? What's chicken cordon bleu? And they don't know because they're Hasidish. If they don't know, you put ham and cheese into a chicken. And I'll be like, who's buried in Grant's tomb? I don't know. I'm like, what's that meat wrapped in bread? Beef stroganoff. They're like, stop.
Wellington.
Which animal has the pearl? I don't know. They don't know. It's the funniest thing. There's stuff they just don't know. They're like, you have to ask a Torah question. I'm like, so now I actually ask them art questions. Which artist painted this? And she'll ask me a question. But they appreciate her. So we're getting her into a Torah competition, which is impressive for a religious Chabad girl. So that's the one. Sorry, it's the one thing I say to my kids. Well, it's one of the million things I say to them. But it's so important to pursue what you're already gifted at. It's all the difference in the world. I mean, somebody said to me, you're really happy about what you do. I'm always happy about what I do because I only do the things I like to do. I mean, sometimes, yes, you are forced to do things you don't like to do. But someone once said to me, you're good at everything you do. And my answer was, no, I only do the things I'm good at. Believe me, I can't spell, I can't read. I do know how to knit. I knit hats, which is very important in Florida. I have 15 hats. I've done every school color. Everyone's like, you need to move to scarves. I'm like, no, I do hats. I don't want to do anything out of what I've already learned to do. But that's like, if I can say anything, you not only do what you love, and I know with the economy that's really hard. Look, I still practice architecture. I still teach. This is my first year out really doing this. I quit one job. I still have the other. But trying to teach my kids, the most important thing is to do what you're good at and really enjoy it. That's the most important thing.
There was a meeting in Kansas City recently. I don't think anybody here was there, but it came on the internet, and it didn't tell you anything. It just said show up if you think you might be interested. And one of the things that came out of that meeting was everybody was unhappy in their work. Everybody that came was unhappy in what they did. And the answer was, if you can't fit in, stand out.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think there's ways that everybody can stand out. And also, my gifts are not taught. My gifts are 100% God-given. I've changed and evolved. But there's no way that I could wake up one day and decide I'm making 20 breasts and just do it. There's no way you make a 10-foot chuppah of Piazza de Campo and just do it. But it would be such a, but I also hear, why are you only doing Judaica? You limit your market. It's my passion. Hebrew letters, Torah stories are my passion. You know, I've been asked to do secular crosses and things like that. I'm not interested. Halavai, there are a million people who can do it. I won't make it if I'm not passionate about it. And you know, that's the thing that's important. Someone raised their hand. I thought I saw.
It's good that your parents were, supportive of you in the direction that you went. Sheldon Silverstein, whatever his name is.
Yeah, Silverstein.
Yeah. His father was very upset, that when he went into cartooning,
Right.
He never thought he'd earn a living, and even then, when he was earning a good living, his father was still really, really upset and really, it made it very difficult for him for the rest of his life because he really felt that his father made it clear he was let down.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm blessed that my kids are picking great professions. I don't know. How would I feel if one of my sons decided that he wanted to cut lawns? It wouldn't be my dream, it wouldn't. But I think also the way they're being raised. Oh, so I was telling you, my parents raised all four of us to believe that we could do anything. So my older brother and sister are chiropractors, and my younger sister does venture capital. But a friend came to my older brother and he said, I'm opening up these hamburger restaurants and I need some help with the design. I don't know where to go to. So he says, oh, ask my sister. She's an architect. So he asks my sister, the other one. So you understand this is going on for 6 months. He's like, I really need your help with the restaurants. So my sister, who also designed her necklace, by the way, says, oh, sure, what do you need? So he's like, when do we have time? And it's for every time they see each other, like, oh, she's like, I've been busy, just call me. They're at Bennigan's. I remember it distinctly. My brother's having dinner with my sister because they work together. And the guy comes in and the guy's like, oh, I can't believe I'm seeing you. I have time this week. Can we get together to discuss the restaurants? So my sister's like, sure, I'm good on Wednesday. They make an appointment. So my brother goes, what are you doing? So my sister Karen goes, oh, he needs help with his restaurants. So the guy's like, yeah, you told me to ask your sister. And my brother's like, not that one, the architect. And he's looking at her and she was like, oh, whatever. So, but what you're saying is 100%. My parents, my mom made us do things. She put me in ballet. I'm a klutz. I mean, I looked like an idiot in a tutu. And I cried. I didn't want to do it. She'd say, everybody has to try everything once. She put me in piano, and I was a decent piano player. She put me in art. I was good. So she kept me at art. I played sports, anything with a stick and a ball, tennis, baseball, golf, whatever that is. But there were things I weren't good at, but there were things my siblings were good at. My sister wanted to be a dancer. I know this is on tape, Karen, you were never really that good of a dancer. So she entered these contests. I was stapling clothes on the way out the door. I mean, taping and stapling it. But my mother saw her passion in it, and she did it. I have a 10-year-old. He's amazing. He was born a month early. And he didn't walk, and he didn't talk, and he had tested for neurological disorders, and he didn't walk till he was over 2. He didn't talk till he was 3. And my other children were like, Mommy, what's wrong with Levi? And I'm like, God gives everybody what they can handle. So Levi has gross motor skill weakness. Levi's in 5th grade doing 8th grade pre-algebra. He is brilliant, he's gifted, but we didn't give up. We didn't you bring out the best, but and everybody says to me, oh my God, remember back when he couldn't? And he's a great athlete my kids are all great athletes as long as no one's covering them. Great basketball players if they're like doing a 3-point shootout and there's nobody blocking. They're not aggressive. I used to pay my older son, I'll give you $100 to draw a foul. Knock one kid over, $100. Couldn't do it. But Levi never gives up, and he didn't make the team this year, but you know what? The kids were upset, and he says, call the coach, tell him to write down all the things that I need to work on. But that comes from, look, and he said he's like, I won't make it. And I said, you probably won't. Now look, your older brothers don't have what you have, and they never made it until they were older. But the passion, also they're in Jewish day schools, they have a better chance of making the basketball team. That's just different. But I agree with you. I think that sometimes parents have to suck it up and just let them be the best that they can be. But again, I've been really blessed so far. So no, this is my 3rd stand-up. What was the first was the mikvah, bad. So I saw the rabbi at a bar mitzvah that night, and he comes over and he's like this. I said, what? And he said, I heard it was borderline inappropriate, totally worth it. So I did this video, guess who's at the mikvah? So for those of you who go to the mikvah, there's a styrofoam head and you put your sheitel on it. I don't wear a sheitel, so I didn't have to put it there. So I borrowed everybody's sheitel and I did video. And you had to guess who was at the mikvah. And then at the end, I put the cowboy hat. So what's really funny is that everybody knows me now as this. So I guess I'm not really a rebel. I'm not mean or anything. I just follow all those strict rules. I follow the Shomer Shabbos rules and stuff, but I'm who I am. So now if I'm at the mikveh and somebody really from walks in, they go like this. And I'm like, yeah, I dunk. And the mikveh lady's always like, you gotta stop talking to people. You're not allowed to talk to people. So anyway, so then I did a roast to my friend Saturday night for her 50th birthday. I go, I have to practice my stand-up. So no, I don't do stand-up. I always wanted to, but you have to really pick on your spouse. My husband's really sweet, and I just didn't think that was very nice. I did not pick on him, right? No mother-in-law jokes, no spouse jokes, no nothing like that. Anyway, thank you so much. And again, this was such an honor. And mostly to be able to talk about my work, because it really is amazing for me. And I've really only been doing it seriously for the past year and 4 months. And I'm just looking forward to what's coming.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Loren, for sharing your treats, your talent with us and your passions. And one of the things she mentioned was, when she does shows, she likes to give tzedakah. And so we talked about that, and there are 3 organizations that are going to benefit if anybody wants to purchase any of Loren's artwork. One of them is Hadassah, so we're grateful to Hadassah, and Marion Kaplan, the president of Hadassah, is with us this evening. NCJW, and there's a lot of people here from NCJW, and we appreciate their support, and then also the Kansas City Mikveh. So
I'll go and tell a story.
She may be
I have a lot
back for
of
the
movie
third time to
stories.
Kansas. You know, maybe we'll bring her back for a mikveh evening.
Oh my God.
So, well, whatever. So anyway, we really appreciate you coming out, and hopefully you had a good laugh or two. And then also again, thank you for the philanthropy and the support from the Sherry Kaplan Foundation. So thank you all very
Thank
much.
you.
Enjoy the rest of the evening.
I'm afraid to ask how long. I always tell my kids, talking a certain amount of words, we're using them up. And I'm like, hey, how are you? Fine. Good. Everything good? Yeah.
President.
Yeah, that's awesome. Adasa has been awesome. I run ads. They really, but I said, I told the story to everybody else before that.
Oh, thank you.
Want to guess her presents? She's
Oh, yeah, the bottom really.
And I was awfully sorry. You know, that was great. I did an added moment.
She was hilarious. Oh, well, of course. I mean, didn't you tell right away that it was fun? Really? Yeah.
Baltimore and Boca and Kansas.
Yeah, yeah. And yes, if she had not taken it, I was going down to Pacific. And it was like, okay, right. They were Avivas or Avivas, I think. Alan was in Baltimore. Alan was in New York. And then he spent Shabbos in Baltimore. So he must have brought this back. Put it in the box and we took it to the store. Very funny.
Right on the nose and everything. But I missed what the rest of the
Her father's birthday. He was a radiologist. Yeah. Her father. She was funny.
Oh my God, that was funny. Isn't she funny? I was paying, well, just this morning I was paying my attention. She's telling me the Rita story because there's more to it. Yeah, you guys know each other, don't you? Yeah, of course. There's more to the story of the shoe. Because today I was talking to Brenda.
This was so fabulous. Thank you so much for bringing it.
No, it's the JCC. That's okay. So the rest of the story, she's gone from Baltimore to Kansas City. So the hand is right. And then there's a continuation of the saga.
I have a feeling there's something, was there something in the shoes or something?
This shoes got peed on by Renee's cats. And then who paid for the shoes? I guess they're Aviva shoes. I don't know, but the rest of the story was the catfish. The catfish on the shoe. She's highly allergic to catfish. And so when Binyami opened up the bag, she was like,
Oh my God.
Irene was like, I washed them 10 times. I thought I got the catfish. But you know what she read on the email, you think about the stuff we see on our listserv. I liked her.
Yes, I know.
Family of 11.
Anything driving to the airport at 6 a.m. No. Yeah, like call a cab. Right. I mean, that's what I do. Yeah. Or drive yourself in a car. Yeah. Sorry. Yes.
One of them was, I was going for my son's stuff and I discovered an unopened pair of size 12 underwear. You know, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh, it is.
She's funny. The story about the shoes is a real story.
They were all real, weren't they?
Yeah, they're all real. We're just talking about the listserv that we have in the BIAB.
BIAB.
Is it just big?
We can relate.
Now?
Yeah. Is this still